In a secluded cabin deep in the woods, a man came stumbling out, clearly in a panic. Something terrifying was chasing him, though it wasn't clear what. Desperate, he darted toward a nearby wrecked car, hoping to hide. But no sooner had he slipped inside than a fully armed woman appeared, holding the leash of a zombie like it was her pet. The man's face twisted into a cartoon of fear, his mind racing. "I just wanted to hook up, but now you're after my life?" The woman, without hesitation, shot the car window with her shotgun, shattering the glass. She then calmly opened the car door and shoved the zombie inside. Turns out, this neighbor was absolutely ruthless, keeping zombies as pets. Not long after, an unsuspecting family of 5 arrived at the cabin for a vacation, completely unaware of the psychotic woman living nearby. The 3 kids, of course, couldn't resist the urge to explore and quickly ventured deep into the woods. As expected, they stumbled upon neighbor's cabin where she kept her collection of zombies. Colin, the oldest, was excited when he saw all the abandoned cars around, having no idea that each one represented a life lost. Clueless to the danger, he climbed into one and, to his horror, felt a strange wet substance on the steering wheel. The foul smell nearly knocked him out. Just then, a car pulled up to the cabin, and the 3 kids quickly hid. Neighbor stepped out with 2 unlucky victims in tow, clearly her next offering for her zombie pets. The siblings, not knowing the real danger, watched curiously, thinking they were about to witness something less sinister. 2 guys and 1 woman in a cabin? They must be playing poker or something, they whispered to each other. Driven by their curiosity, they sneaked closer, peeking through the window. At first, everything seemed to align with their wild imaginations. Neighbor poured each of her guests a glass of red wine, which they downed without hesitation, then proceeded to dance awkwardly around the room. The kids, excited by this strange but seemingly harmless scene, continued watching. Little did they know that the red wine wasn't just wine. One of the men, midway through taking off his jacket, suddenly collapsed. His friend, realizing something was wrong, panicked, but he too fell to the floor moments later. Neighbor calmly closed the curtains, clearly ready to begin her real work, but the curious siblings weren't giving up so easily. They sneaked around to the other side of the cabin to continue their spying, but what they saw next froze them in place. Through the gap, they watched in horror as neighbor dragged the lifeless bodies to the door, where a zombie waited, ready to feast. The gruesome sight snapped them out of their curiosity, and they finally realized the danger they were in. Without wasting a second, they turned and bolted. As they ran, Colin suddenly picked up a rock and hurled it at the car window, claiming he wanted to distract the killer so the 2 men could escape. Sure enough, neighbor heard the noise and came out of the cabin to investigate. But instead of saving anyone, Colin's impulsive move just landed them in even more trouble. Neighbor casually went back inside, donned a full tactical helmet and body armor, grabbed her shotgun, and prepared to silence the kids once and for all. Meanwhile, the 3 kids made it back to their own cabin, breathless and panicked. They quickly told their drunk father, Roger, what they'd witnessed. Surprisingly, instead of being horrified, Roger's face lit up at the mention of a beautiful woman feeding zombies with live people. Without hesitation, he threw on his jacket, grabbed his axe, and declared that he'd go check her out in person. Before leaving, he even asked Lisa to take a final photo of him, just in case. Watching their father stumble out, swaying and even peeing as he walked, Summer and Jason exchanged worried glances. It was clear their father, in his current state, didn't stand a chance against the deadly neighbor. However, Roger was brimming with confidence, insisting that he was invincible when drunk. After saying that, he led the 2 kids toward their destination. Before long, they arrived at the cabin, and without any strategy, Roger swaggered right inside. When he pushed open the door, to his surprise, there was no one in sight. Unfazed, Roger decided to make himself comfortable, sitting on the sofa to wait for the woman to return. Little did he know, neighbor had already snuck into his house and stolen their precious crystal. As Colin headed into the bathroom to relieve himself, Lisa, sitting in the living room, heard a knock at the door. Thinking it was Roger, she opened it without hesitation. But instead of Roger, neighbor barged in, pinning Lisa against the table and launching a brutal assault. Lisa's attempts to fight back were useless, and neighbor quickly knocked her out cold with a vicious headbutt. The terrifying scene was witnessed by Colin, who peeked through the slightly open bathroom door, mid-pee. Horrified, he quickly cut off the stream and turned off the faucet. As neighbor slowly approached the bathroom, Colin knew he had to act fast. He scrambled out the window, escaping just in time as neighbor got closer, fortunately not noticing his hasty retreat. Meanwhile, the three others were still cluelessly waiting in the cabin, completely unaware that chaos had already erupted back home. Roger, ever the alcohol fiend, ended up drinking the poisoned wine that was left on the table. By the time Summer and Jason noticed, it was too late. Roger was completely knocked out, lying flat on the floor. Having such a reckless father truly felt like a curse. Left with no other option, Summer and Jason scrambled to find a place to hide him before neighbor returned. That's when Jason accidentally stumbled upon a hidden cellar. Just as they were about to stash their father down there, they heard a noise coming from a nearby cabinet. Thinking it might be a zombie, they cautiously approached the cabinet. To their surprise, when they opened the door, they found not a zombie, but the man who had been tricked and captured by neighbor earlier that day. In a panic, Jason instinctively swung his axe, though fortunately, he missed. But the swing caused enough of a commotion to spark total chaos. They tried to explain the situation, but the man wasn't interested in hearing them out. He bolted, desperately trying to escape. Unfortunately, as soon as he rounded the corner of the staircase, a zombie leaped out from the shadows and tackled him. Summer and Jason rushed forward, intending to save the man, but he had already been torn apart by the zombie. To make matters worse, the zombie noticed them and started moving in their direction. In a moment of desperation, they decided to face it head-on. However, luck was on their side when the zombie stumbled and fell into the newly discovered cellar. Without wasting a second, they quickly slammed the cellar door shut. Then, they dragged their unconscious father and hid him under the stairs in a small storage room. Just as they caught their breath, the man who had been bitten earlier also began to transform into a zombie. To prevent further complications, they threw him into the cellar as well before he could fully turn. With their immediate problem solved, they realized they needed to find Lisa and Colin to help. On their way back home, however, they spotted neighbor returning, her zombie pet in tow. Panicking, they quickly ducked behind a tree, holding their breath until neighbor was out of sight. Once the coast was clear, they hurried back into the house. But as soon as they stepped inside, they were met with a horrifying sight. Blood was everywhere. Following the trail, Summer found her stepmother, Lisa, lying on the floor, already transformed into a zombie. As Summer and Jason debated their next move, the zombified Lisa suddenly lunged at them. Summer managed to knock her down with a stick, but the attack barely fazed the zombie. Instead, Lisa overpowered Summer, pinning her to the ground. Jason tried to intervene, but quickly became Lisa's next target. Just as the situation seemed dire, Colin rushed in, having heard the commotion, and took down their stepmother with a well-placed shotgun blast. With a moment to catch their breath, Colin told them about neighbor's earlier visit. Summer and Jason, in turn, revealed that their father was still hidden at neighbor's house. Despite the odds, the three siblings agreed to rescue their unreliable father. They headed to a nearby shed and gathered whatever weapons and supplies they could find to arm themselves. Once ready, the trio set off for neighbor's place. As they approached the house, they saw that neighbor was already outside, waiting for them, with her pet zombie by her side. The moment they were in range, neighbor fired a shot, forcing the siblings to dive for cover behind a car. Then, without hesitation, neighbor commanded her zombie to charge, sending it straight at them while she remained safely behind, firing shots whenever she could. Just as one of the zombies set its sights on Summer, she quickly slipped into a nearby car and managed to trap the zombie inside. However, this clever move also caught neighbor's attention. Thankfully, Summer ducked just in time to dodge a bullet. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jason managed to take down a zombie and even got a shot off that hit neighbor. But before they could celebrate the small victory, another zombie lunged at Colin, grabbing him. Colin fired a shot, but failed to kill the zombie. Seeing this, Jason rushed over and swung his axe with all his strength, splitting the zombie's skull and saving Colin. When they caught their breath, they noticed something unsettling. Neighbor's body was no longer on the ground. She had vanished. But with no time to waste, the trio hurried inside to rescue their father. Once inside, they barricaded all the doors and windows, fearing that neighbor might return for revenge. Just as they thought they were safe, they heard a noise from one of the rooms. As the door slowly creaked open, two small child zombies emerged. Just then, Roger, having woken up from his drunken stupor, crawled out of the storage room. Without wasting any time, Colin rushed over and pulled his father away from danger. Meanwhile, as the two small zombies crept closer, Jason and Summer had no choice but to strike them down. Once the fight was over, Summer quickly explained to Roger what had transpired in the house. Just as they were about to make their escape, another zombie suddenly burst into the room, but Summer and Jason swiftly took it down together. As they let out a sigh of relief, a loud banging came from the door behind them. Thinking it was another zombie, Jason cautiously approached, only to be struck down by an axe. The attacker was none other than Neighbor herself. When Neighbor saw the lifeless bodies of the two small zombies, she was overcome with grief. It turned out that she had a tragic story of her own. But before she could react further, Roger, enraged by the attack on his son, charged at her without hesitation. Fueled by anger and the instinct to protect his children, Roger engaged Neighbor in a brutal struggle. In the chaos, Roger grabbed a sharp knife and stabbed Neighbor in the arm. But Neighbor wasn't one to back down. She immediately yanked the knife out and counterattacked. Just as it seemed Roger was doomed, Colin rushed in to help, saving his father from a fatal blow. However, Neighbor was severely wounded and managed to escape the scene. The three of them, seeing Roger bleeding heavily, knew they had to flee the terrifying house. But as they stepped outside, Neighbor shot Roger from behind. What was once a salvageable injury had now become fatal. Horrified, the group scattered in panic. Neighbor staggered out of the house, cursing them for killing her children. It became clear that she wasn't just a psychopathic killer. Her twisted actions were driven by grief over her zombified family. Yet, this didn't excuse her violence towards others. As Neighbor manically fired her shotgun at Summer, who was hiding in a car, Jason rammed her with the vehicle. Though Neighbor lay barely conscious, still trying to crawl forward, Colin, without hesitation, delivered the final blow, putting an end to the relentless chase. In the end, the three of them quietly lifted Roger's body into the car, bringing an end to this blood-soaked and terrifying vacation.